What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figure it out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, just this morning I was saying to myself, you know what, there's only been one other person that I've ever done a Sunday AM show for, and there's a reason for that. I'm so not a morning person. I'm sitting here burning incense, drinking a big-ass cup of coffee, thinking to myself, God, I hope this guy doesn't think I do a terrible job on a Sunday morning. Hello, folks. I'm doing a Sunday morning show because Durden and myself have been trying to do this radio show 3 times now. And every time we've tried, something has happened. So thank you, Jesus, this is finally going on. Want to do a quick couple notes here before we begin and remind everybody. This week, my kids are off on Monday, which means no show on Monday for me. Yay! I get to go ahead and, well, I don't know what we're going to do, but we'll figure out something. So shows this week are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I'll be putting up my show schedule sometime tomorrow. In case you can't read on Facebook or haven't read it, I'm in the process of my roommate moving in, finishing up a textbook, kids at home. It's like pandemonium around here. Only minus the alcohol, which will probably come later when they make me watch that football game. In any case, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Robert Burke's interview, lovely, talented, wonderful individual, is now uploaded. So if you guys want to listen to that, go ahead. And I just want to remind everybody relative to my film festival, the early submission date is now come and gone. You know, I have the next 6 weeks to do the regular submission before we move on to the next phase. Art is Alive Film Festival is the name of it, once again, to remind everybody. So go ahead and send a note to me via the Facebook page, or you can visit us on the filmfreeway.com link. So without further ado, let's get the lovely and talented filmmaker himself, Durden Godfrey, on the line. Is it really here?
Good morning.
He's here. He exists. He's alive. He's not just a Facebook posting. I keep seeing the pop-up messaging, and I'm like, he lives. There's a person. Hi.
I'm very happy to hear that you are as frazzled as I am this morning. Right.
Okay, well, yeah. My world. Yeah, well, you have a smaller child. Yeah, I have other kids that are asleep right now. I literally wrote a notebook, doing radio. If you need me, write a note. Because I'm like, seriously, they're out like a light. I have 3 children, like dead bodies in my living room. And I have to ask, how are you feeling? Because yesterday you weren't feeling so well. So how are we faring today?
You know, better. Still just kind of recovering. The last 3 days have been up until 5 o'clock in the morning editing for the screening that we did last night.
Sure.
And then, you know, last night was just an adrenaline rush that took a while to come down from. So it was another late night. And then, yeah, I've got a 1-year-old daughter that has been sick for the past week on top of teething. And yeah, it's been, she's napping right now. So I'm literally, I'm a pacer and a smoker when I'm on the phone. So if I sound out of breath, don't worry. That's just, so I'm literally, I'm walking the front yard, you know, the front of my house down the road in Cookie Monster slippers and pajamas. And fair warning, I live in between like a huge railway intersection and an airport, so it should be awesome for sound.
Oh, my God. Now that he started off the show like that, aren't we all excited this is going to go so well? I remember those days. I used to be a smoker, so I know what you're talking about. But I'm clean now, so I'm like, I'm okay with that. I have to do other things for stress. Wine's good. I found that wine is a good remedy. I found that screaming, I've been told, is great. Like, I go in the car now and I scream sometimes. People think I'm killing someone. It's okay. So I get it. I totally get it. I'll try to be easy on you. I hope it's not anything serious, is it? I remember the stage of 1-year-old. They get sick. They get really sick.
Well, the funny thing is that she, I think, is just teasing, and her canines are coming in, which has been hellacious. And we were, I think, we've been through a couple teasing episodes with her, and the last few times were not so bad. But the thing that's missing this time are these things called Highlands teething tablets that were all natural, dissolvable things that were just like, I get toothaches really bad. I actually tried them on myself, even though they're for infants, and it knocked my toothache out. But this time around, they've been discontinued in the United States because following the instructions, giving them to their kids every night, kids were having seizures. So now responsible parents don't get to use them properly. And so she's just been, teasing, I think, and showing a lot of the cold symptoms because of the teasing. But I think she's a carrier for whatever my wife and I have had. And because my wife's mom watched her, she ended up getting sick. And then my wife's sister just held her for a little bit, and she ended up getting sick. So I think she's just like a carrier. Like, I don't know.
No, I get it, and it's awful. I can remember those stages. Now my kids are old enough to where I can tell, but I mean, sickness is awful. It's absolutely terrible, and you have my sympathies without a doubt. And she is beautiful. I mean, folks, I'm telling you right now, if you get a chance to look at Adeline on his page, any of his pages, because he's a huge promoter of her, probably more so than of himself, I'm just going to say, which most of us do. She's beautiful, and she's precious, and it makes me want to have another baby, but hell no, that's not happening. Thank
you.
47,
yes,
you get that. You're like, we're done now. You know what I mean?
Of all of the things that I've poured my heart and soul into, I think she's the project I'm most proud of, and it is very much like half father and half project. I want it's like a human experiment to see what I could leave behind for the world.
I'm sure you have a lot to leave behind, and we're about to talk about all that. Wait till you hear this guy, folks. I'm telling you right now, I get some of the coolest people on my shows. And the cool part is I get to pick them all. You happen to approach me, which I thought was cool, because not everybody approaches Cindy all the time. Maybe I'm intimidating. I don't know about that. But we have mutual friends. Obviously, Stephen Nagy is the link between you and I, which is how we met. But what I want to know is, you're Facebook friends with Thomas Oshie, who I was just with for Christmas. So do you know him well? I love him. Oh, my God.
I just recently became friends with him just by trying to get in touch with more people in the film circle in Jacksonville and surrounding areas. And, I mean, I've had a few personal interactions with him on Facebook and via comments and things like that. But, I love it. He's a pleasure to have in my news feed. I always enjoy his posts, and his face just puts a smile on my face.
I told him that when I met him. I met him in New York for the very first time when I was just there, and we had our Christmas dinner together. He came over to Rachel's house, and I'm telling you right now, I mean, every time I have a bad day, he made me lick his hand, literally, and I'm like, this is the kind of guy he is. He's so over the top, it's ridiculous. Everything is so funny. And so whenever I have a bad day, I look at him, and I'm like, that's just a classic. That's one of the best parts of my gig in life, is being around so many entertainers, whether it's you doing the director, producer, writer capacity, or him being an actor. He loves making fun of himself. He'll do anything to make somebody laugh. He's huge at it. And you really, oh my God, you couldn't have picked a better person to know. But it's a good thing he came on my show, because if you want to know more people, well, look at my Facebook page. Good Lord. I know so many people in entertainment. It's neat. I wish I knew more people in Florida, because I know you're a Florida resident. I don't get to Florida very much, and I want to, actually, because I think that Florida, California and New York are where I primarily go, and Vegas, because they are rich in different arts and things. But I bet Florida has a cap. Can you tell us a little bit about the industry in terms of being in that sort of area? Is it kind of ripe and rich for the arts, or are you finding that you're somewhat lacking? Because I don't know a whole lot about that in terms of the creative side. So are there a lot of outlets for you to get your work and your message out there?
Yes, but I feel I need to preface that with saying that I suffer from social anxiety. I'm a recluse. I rarely get out. A lot of people take it as that I don't support the community, but I don't get out. I don't leave the house very much unless I absolutely have to. But there is, as far as the film community in Florida, it's very tight knit. It's in Jacksonville specifically. There's a local theater, which is a crazy story. I first started making movies in 2004, and Riverside is kind of like the arts central, the district of Jacksonville. That's where you could usually find all the starving artists are renting, studio apartments in Riverside and putting up their posters around there. That's like the place to be if you're creating something. And there's this theater in the center of Riverside that, it used to be a theater, like an old school looking cinema, the outside box office and all that good stuff, marquee. and it was sadly converted into a nightclub from like 2004 until not very long ago. And a local guy, Tim Massett, who has always been very much involved in the film community, just like, you know, with the Jacksonville Film Festival. He actually ran like this place called The Pit, where he would just play. You pay $4 every Tuesday night, and it was this crazy little factory in the back of a parking lot on the bad side of town, and real shady. That you go in, you sit on these folding chairs or couches, and he would just play these like weirdest film reels. He's actually, I think he's in the Guinness Book of World Records for having the largest film reel collection. And the factory is just stacked like on the walls with just films. So he actually converted the club in Riverside back to a theater not too long ago. So, you know, when I first did my first movie in 2004, I really would like, man, I wish there was still a theater. I would love to show a movie there. And Tim Massett, who now runs what is now the theater there, Sunray Cinema, he is just a huge supporter. Like, it's not even really a question asked. If you have an independent movie that you've done in Jacksonville, it's a simple message to him, and he's like, yeah, just let me know the date, and, you know, we'll split the ticket costs. And at the very least, it's really nice to know that in the city there's always a really nice theater in the best part of town to show your independent film. Even if it never goes further than that, you can have that nice local premiere.
That is awesome. I like that. And I like hearing that, because not all communities are like that. Not everyone is that supportive. And I wish that they were, as a matter of fact. It's just so, it can be somewhat demoralizing to me, because I see this when I go to New York, and it's very competitive. California is very competitive. And I'm just a huge across the board supporter of creative authors and writers, directors, producers, actors, you name it. There just tends to be this huge sense of competition. That's one of the reasons I started my film festival this year, that I wanted it to be less about celebrities and competition and more about the art. Keeping the art in film is very important to me. And exposing my world to you, and you exposing your film to my world and the people that I know, is very important to me too. Because really, how many times are people going to come up to you and say, hey, you're a filmmaker, let's give you exposure? I mean, do you think that we're somewhat lacking in that, meaning that are you getting enough attention in terms of that, or do you find that it really comes down to the pushing of yourself on social media and other mediums?
Oh, it's a constant job to, at least it feels like it is to me, to keep yourself present in people's face. Because I like, you know, with you're battling mainstream media, which is, and it's funny because, you know, some people get it. Like, I'm called a social media whore because, and I'm like, you don't get 5,000 likes on your page without being a whore somewhat. If you're a local filmmaker, you have to, I mean, you don't have a problem with a Hollywood trailer being blasted in your face on the radio on the way to work, and then when you get to work, your friends are talking about it, and you go home and it's playing in the commercials between the show that you watch, and then you watch your late night television show and the talk show, and the lead actor of that movie is on there. It's like, it's okay if that's constantly blasted in your face, but I can't, you know, if I constantly promote my thing, I'm annoying you. But, you know, it is like it's a constant, you know, you just have to keep yourself present. And I found that with the last movie I did, I just started becoming very transparent on Facebook about the whole process. And I thought that maybe if people felt like they were involved with the whole production, that we could, you know, where we lack in Hollywood mainstream PR, we could make up in making somebody feel invested in the project itself, where they all have that, because, you know, in most local premieres, it's the cast, the crew, the family and friends of the cast and crew, and then, you know, a small percentage of people that are like just diehard independent film fans and will go to anything and are just kind of connoisseurs about it. So yeah, I've trailed off into a ramble and forgot my point. So
no, that happens sometimes too, and it's interesting that you mentioned this social anxiety thing because I think you and I can go out on a limb here. Can be very public about feelings, thoughts, emotions, that sort of good stuff. In fact, I hear that a lot of people say to me, "Well, they put that public figure tag on me," and I'm like, I'm so not celebrity, I'm so not public figure. I'm like, I've worked very hard and I've written for a long time, and so I try to be very candid and I allow people to come into my world. They see when I fall down, they see when I do well, they see, and I've been very public. I have been, I'm 47 now. Yeah, so I've been probably a bipolar patient for almost 30 years, and I'm not sure what your experience is, but I do notice that even today in 2017, you don't get a lot of vocalization about that. Actually, I find in some circles that people tend to kind of shy away from me, and I'm curious to get your take on this. Even though I've achieved so much, or even though that they have great respect for me, they hear something like that and they're thinking, I think they're thinking my head's going to twist around, in 50 different circles, and I'm going to pull a knife out of my head, or, something very strange is going to occur. And I'm like, yeah, well, Carrie Fisher, very iconic woman, struggled with the same thing, very public, very loud about it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. Carrie Fisher has it, and it's cool,
Yeah.
Others like us or people in the world that have anxiety issues or other issues, all of a sudden I'm a freak. And I guess I'm just curious to see, your experiences with that, because you are vocal about yourself and you're very honest and open about what goes on. So do you think that affects you from a career perspective? And if there are people listening out there, would you suggest, there are some on both sides of the fence. Some people say to me, you tell people way too much. You know what? It's my show. It's my page. I'm going to say whatever I want. And honestly, I got nothing to hide. So I'm like, I'll say it. Other people on the other side of the fence are like, well, if you want to be successful in entertainment.
It's funny. I've never really thought about it to that extent until this when you started talking about it.
Just when you open your big mouth and it's like, oh, well, let's talk about it.
Well, it's crazy because I never really questioned why I do it or what effect it might have. The only thing that I ever thought was there's no way that if I'm going to make sense, if what the results that I produce, be it in my personal life or in the films I make, if it's going to make any kind of sense to somebody, they got to know the full story. Or I just feel like it's too, that part of my brain would be way too much it would be way too much of a chore to try to hide or act like it doesn't exist. So it's just easier that way. And I mean, it's just who I am. So if it affects, and I feel the same way. Like I would rather have it out there and then attempt to mask it. And I never, until you brought it up, I never really considered it, or even considered the possibility of people that suffer from it, or people that hear about it and haven't experienced it for themselves, considering it a weakness. I've never personally thought about it as a weakness or an affliction of any kind. It just kind of is what it is, and everybody's brain works differently, and you just find the best way to work through it and be honest about it. Like, if I don't show up for something, I don't want people to think I'm just flaking on them personally. I'm just a flaky person in general.
Well put.
And so, yeah, and most people understand. I try not to. The one thing that I did find is that it's a thin line between being honest about what you're feeling and like trying to create a pity party or at least giving the impression to people that don't understand that, like, that's, this person is just a Debbie Downer and they're just very self-degrading. And so I try to, I always try to, I watched this show called Adam Ruins Everything, and he'll completely tear down the fabric of something that you hold true to your heart, and then it makes you feel really like damn, I really believed in that, and now he's making me question it. But then at the end of the show, he always kind of glosses over it with a little bit of sugar and says, but this is what we can do. So I just, I don't like to scare people either when I post stuff, because a lot of times I know that I'm not going to hurt myself, but
Right.
I've looked back at posts in the past, thanks to the Facebook timeline reminder of who you were 1, 2, 3, 4 years ago, which is sometimes sad and sometimes happy, but sometimes I've posted stuff in the past and it's like, oh man, that was kind of irresponsible to publicly say without any kind of further explanation. That could have set off some alarms. So I think I've matured a lot in that way where
and you almost have to, really, because we live in that society now where people are watching. Do you notice that now that you're gaining more popularity and people are watching your work and what you do? They watch everything. I'm amazed that some people notice some of the things that I say or do, and I'm like, I didn't even realize you were watching. But, yeah, I guess they're out there, and if you become someone that people recognize, they start watching everything you do. Amazing, my mind.
Yeah, people will remind me of things that I've done that I've shared about online, and I don't recall these things. You did.
It's
I have a terrible memory.
Oh, well, look at that. You remember to come on the show today. That's important. That's all we care about. He's here right now, so we're excited about that. Now, I want to ask you a question. You made a statement, which I find ironic, because I've not heard someone say this before, but you had said, I just don't consider myself to be a filmmaker. Can you explain that a little bit? Because obviously you are a filmmaker. So I'm like, what does he mean by that? You know what I'm saying? No, I get what you mean.
Yeah, I get the irony in it because I've obviously made a film or two, but I don't know. It's hard to explain. I look at filmmakers, I look at the process of filmmaking. The end result of what I get is a film, but I don't think, I've never taken a course. I took TV production in high school, and to be honest, it was during the transition from linear to non-linear editing, and I was already using the MacBook Pro or the old iMacs and Final Cut to edit at that time, while they were still using the tapes, actually all the old linear style. I actually had to teach my teacher. I didn't learn anything in TV production. They had no idea what was going on digitally. I had to spend my 2 years there showing them what was what. So I never had any professional, training. I've always just, I started shooting things when I was 15 years old, and I just did it ritualistically, like every single weekend, always doing something, working on, what shots work, what doesn't work, editing and things like that. And, but I started watching behind the scenes for other things, and I realized that my process is very different. I'm more so, it's not really like filmmaking. It's more like crafting like a real life incident and then capturing it, rather than very technically setting up this scene and mapping it out. I work with mostly amateur actors that don't have any training in acting, which I have always tended to prefer because it seems more natural to me. And I don't know. When it comes to filmmaking, it's just I just never considered myself a filmmaker. I just like to think of it as I've got these stories in my head and I want to bring them to life, and that's what happens. But there's just very few similarities to the actual filmmaking process involved in the production. Ironically, it's very hard to explain. I
imagine. I
just don't feel like the guy that did the score for the movie. He I would say he's a fantastic musician, but he refuses to call himself a musician. I don't know. I guess maybe once you give yourself a title, then you set an expectation, and a lot of responsibility or the hell is the damn word? Yep, the coffee's wearing off.
Did he just wear them off? How the heck did he do that? That's okay.
A lot of demands come with certain titles.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I've never, this time around, I've spent 15 years making things that resemble movies, and when I found out that we were going to have a kid, my wife and I, it was this moment where I just started doing a reality check for every aspect of my life, not just filmmaking. It was just, what do you really have to, as far as knowledge or anything to pass down to your daughter? You need to get your shit together and figure out, exactly what you're doing. So I did this self-inventory, and I realized that I'd been doing these movie projects for so many years, and it was always under the veil of, I don't care about making money. I don't, care about making it in any way or selling out. I just want to do my art and show it to people in town and then move on to the next thing. And it just kind of dawned on me wow, you've been saying that for 15 years, and that's kind of just, there's if it was purely about principle, fine, and that's great. And if you were really satisfied with that, then okay. But to be completely honest with myself, that was just a cop-out. It was just because I didn't want to give 100% to something. I just wanted to, just have a fun experience and make movies, and I didn't want any expectations involved with that, and or push myself beyond any certain point that I wasn't comfortable, or make it feel like work. And but then when with the kid coming, I was like, I'm either going to stop this that takes up a lot of time and money, or I'm going to really try and actually put everything I have into it. And I talked to my wife. I said, I know this is the worst timing to start a movie. She was 2-3 months pregnant, and I started writing and literally started shooting when our daughter was 2 months old. So it was in retrospect, terrible timing. But I told her, I was just give me this one last project, and I'm going to give everything I have. I'm going to take all the advice that I've shunned for the past 15 years because I was too cocky or whatever to accept it. I'm going to apply everything. I'm going to really give it an honest shot to where, everything else, when it didn't get accepted to a film festival, at the end of the day, I was like, I kind of knew it wouldn't because the sound sucked, or I knew that the story was too polarizing and that I intentionally made it just too obscure. And this time around, I was like, I'm going to take time on the writing. We're going to do all of the right steps during the sound guy and produce the sound and original score and just 100% all the way. And that way, if I walk away from filmmaking, I know that I at least gave it one honest shot. My rationalization was heard as if I have this talent that people say that I have, and I know that I'm skilled with editing and writing. I know that there's a skill there that I don't take for granted that just doesn't come naturally to everybody. I've been told it too many times to ignore it. So I just felt that it would be irresponsible for me to take something that I have, kind of accidentally practiced really well at for 15 years to take that and just kind of waste it away when it could potentially, if applied correctly, support my family and just kind of be the dream job. So that's where Never Go Back came from, is just kind of the make or break moment of I'm either going to be doing home videos and short films with my family for the rest of my life, or I'm going to continue making movies full time.
Wonderful. Now, since you started talking about it, let's stay on that note, of course, which is the movie itself. So, first of all, it's called Never Go Back. I want to ask, before we get into it, you had a screening last night, so talk to me, because you said you were all hyped up, and I totally get how that is after an event. So how did it go? How were they? How was it received?
Right up until about 7:50, it was absolutely terrible and horrifying. And then at about 7:55, once we had a decent amount of people, this was just a private screening for like a selected test audience to just so we can get the best, some honest feedback. Like these were most people didn't know me personally, so I wanted and. So we had about, I think it was like 15 people that showed up, which was, it looked good enough to not give me an anxiety attack or feel weird about the, empty seats.
Of course.
And then,
awesome.
we start the movie and people are into it. You know how, I don't know if everybody experiences this, but when I've also done music before with the guy that did the score for the movie, and I've noticed it with watching like other people's movies as well. You kind of pick up on the other people's energy in the room when you're watching it. Like you can have a different experience watching the same movie depending on who you're watching it with. Almost like their feeling can, I don't know, it like kind of affects. Like, when everybody gets really, like a good example is Jurassic World. I went and saw that in the theater, and everyone's all hyped up seeing it in 3D, and there was this excitement and intensity within the room. And then I watched it on my TV at home by myself, and it wasn't nearly as exciting.
Right.
But, so I'm sitting in the back of the screening and just kind of really for myself watching it for the first time from start to finish. And, people are gasping at the right moments and chuckling at the right moments, and nobody's getting up or shuffling. Everybody's very engaged the whole time. And it was just, we gave out questionnaires to get a feel for what people thought of specific different parts and prying for not asking for compliments, but just saying, if you had to remove a part, which part would you remove, things like that. And
Gotcha.
The feedback was just overwhelmingly positive. And a lot of the times, it's just, you can tell when something is a empty compliment or if somebody actually is really meaning it. And there was a very engaged conversation after we stayed around and talked for like an hour and a half after the screening of just what they thought about different parts and just starting conversation, which is exactly what I wanted the movie to do, was to, when people walk away, to just question everything about their life. And really, there's a lot of parts where it just opens up discussion on things, and it couldn't have worked out better. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. We were waxing philosophical about society and civilization, and it started the conversation that I wanted it to start. So yeah, it was very. I came home at midnight and just high on life, and very excited for that. We're doing our big public screening on Thursday at Sunray, and after
chat about that.
When you lock yourself in a room with just you and what you're creating for a year and a half, and it's really easy when you're watching it in like 30-second parts and you're seeing the same scene over and over again. After a while, the words that you wrote that meant so much just kind of become like noise. They don't even sound like words anymore. So it's really easy to start questioning, is this even good, or what does this even make sense anymore? What is even happening? I don't even care about this right now because it just kind of like loses all of its themes. You've been staring at it for so long, but I took a month away from it, but while the score and the audio production was going on, and put it all back together the last 3 days, and for the first time watched it with people other than myself, and I was very pleasantly surprised. Wow, we made for the first time in nearly 15, 16 years of making movies, I actually felt like we made a movie. This is actually really good, and that to be able to admit that openly is just in itself something I've never felt comfortable doing before with anything I've done, which is it's accomplishment enough for me just to. Sure. I did what I set out to do. Everything all the bases were checked.
That's awesome. And, of course, you are, as I prefaced, both the writer and the director, so I have a question for you. There are some people that do, like I've written a screenplay, but I chose not to be the director because content was just too difficult. So I want to ask you, for you, which was the more challenging, meaning directing versus writing? And then second of all, moving on to the future, do you foresee continuing to both write and direct, or will you ever hand off your projects to someone else?
I don't think I could ever hand over a project, something that I've written to someone else. Even though directing is challenging, I love and when, as far as directing, I'm also holding the camera as well. Right. I'm very much a control freak. So I've never handed over the audio or the sound to anybody for music before. It was strange to work on this one and see for like a year to watch it with no music. Right. And then to hand that over to someone else and let them completely take the helm on it. But the ironic thing is that the guy that did the music is Dr. Jones, real name Jeff Soto. He's one of my best friends for nearly 20 years. We actually, he moved to St. Louis. We made a few movies together in Jacksonville when he used to live here, and we were a really great team because I love we both kind of have the same mindset as far as how we think, the kind of stories we like, the authors we prefer, and so we'd write together, and even with this one, I sent him the script as I was writing it to get notes and things like that. So on the set, it would be. He was really good with being able to kind of manipulate people and manipulate emotions and just be very upfront and blunt with people, where I am not so good at that at all. So we made a really good director duo on the movies that we did here, where he would he'd direct the cast and I'd direct the shots, and that would be the dynamic we had. Since he left, I had to do both, and it's such a challenge for me to that's one of the downsides I have is being able to I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, which sometimes you have to do or have to possibly do when you're talking to an actor if something wasn't the way you wanted it. I just feel uncomfortable in situations like that. And you just have to push through it because at the end of the day, everybody wants the best movie, and they're out there in the woods for 12 hours. So, they obviously want the best product out of this. So, of course, it's my job to get that out of them. So I have to keep telling myself that. But it is if I had to choose between one of the two, I would love to just write and then send it off to be directed, and then have the footage come back and let me cut the final product. And
gotcha.
But I would never feel comfortable enough to give the directing part away.
I gotcha. Now I have a couple questions relative, just to give you guys a little backdrop. This is, of course, a story of a father and son. They literally abandoned society for the wilderness. After, of course, someone suffers, there was the death of the wife, of course. And so once this happens, the father and son merge off, leave society, go off into the wilderness. It's just a loose translation of the film itself. So I for some reason, in the back of my head, I kept thinking to myself, I need to ask him. I don't know why, but I get that premonition. Am I crazy? These are fictional characters, or is this based on some form of a story from someone else? or based on someone's life, I should say?
I mean, it's definitely. I know that it has a lot of similarities to Into the Wild, which was based on a true story.
Right.
And that movie inspired me. I think it came out when I was about 17, right before I was going into the real world, and it kind of changed my perspective on things. And it's always been a daydream of mine to just keep driving when I'm on the way to work some mornings and just not stop and just go until the gas runs out and get out and go into the woods and just never return. And my wife, when I met her, she's kind of the same personality where, we could easily leave everything behind and just go live in the woods. Not easily, because obviously we haven't, but there's something holding us. But when we found out we were having a daughter, it was just one of those things where I had to come to terms with the fact that this is probably not going to happen in reality anymore. This is a daydream that I'm going to have to let go of. So just brought it to life fictionally.
That makes sense. No, I understand completely, definitely. And when you made this concept, were you thinking to yourself, did you make it thinking, okay, if absolutely nobody sees this, I've done this? Is it your intention, like some filmmakers are big and huge on the whole, okay, now we got to hit the circuit, we got to try to get those laurels, it's important that we get the message out to the world. Was it your intention to make something of yourself or to make the movie a message in and of itself?
My movies have always been kind of a therapeutic thing for me. It's always been it's always been to work through something that I'm going through at the time.
Nice.
I did Tomorrow Morning in 2007. That was very heavy on religion. That's something that I was struggling with at the time. Black Matter Thomacy in 2012. It was a lot about identity crisis and just losing time in general. That's something I was personally dealing with. And when this came around, that the two themes are, one, leaving society, and two, just parental relationships. And that those were just two things that I wanted to explore at that time, because I found out that I was going to be a father. At the time when I first started writing, I didn't know if we were going to have a son or a daughter. So that's, we end up with the father and son in the story. Oliver, the son in the story, is actually what we were going to name our son if it was a boy. And Dave, the father, is actually, my real name is David Petlansky.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's just, it came from a very natural place of me wanting to explore, kind of write what I would want to be as a father, and explore like the kind of relationship that I would want to have with my child that was coming, and live out that daydream of escaping society to live in the wilderness. And hopefully, since I'm not going to be able to do it now or anytime soon, yeah, I mean, I would love if people watched it and, there's just people quitting their jobs left and right after they watch the movie and just leaving. If it started a revolution, I wouldn't be sad at all.
That's awesome. I think we all, somewhere deep inside of us, have this need or want or desire for some form of tranquility, whether it's, having to go to the woods to find it or finding it within ourselves, etc. I think subliminally, that's something that we all crave, clearly and obviously. I meant to ask you about that, but since you did bring it up, okay, so I was a little confused. So here I am, right, and here comes Durden, and he's going to come on my show, right? And then all of a sudden I'm like, David, I'm thinking, what does he got, like 12 personalities, and we're just one person, which I'm cool with, mind you, but I'm like, what up with that? So what's going on with your name?
It's very confusing for me, too.
Thank you.
In 2012, it started out purely as just kind of a joke. Durden is because Tyler Durden from Fight Club was one of the first influential Fight Club. I was like 13, 14 when it came out, I think, and it just kind of blew my mind. Like, oh my God, rebellion, that's cool. And then Godfrey is just because I am God-free.
Yes.
So,
okay.
So the name just kind of came out of that. And then the reason for it was I really just changed my name on Facebook because I was in between jobs and I wasn't getting any callbacks on any jobs. And I'm very politically outspoken. I'm outspoken about my religious beliefs and I'm outspoken in general. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to take David Petlansky off of Facebook and I'm going to be Durden Godfrey. And
Gotcha. Okay.
But more people know me on Facebook than in the real world. So when I started working on that Black Matter Thomasy, when we were like going to local events to hand out flyers and things like that, people were calling me Durden. And so I was like, all right, well, that's just going to be my stage name now. I might as well keep my real name away from my projects, which are also as polarizing as my Facebook page. So I'll just sell through the stage name. And
okay, now I don't feel like an idiot because I'm like, what?
And now it feels weird when people call me David, which is just really strange. I didn't know that you could mentally, like, change your name in your brain. And it sounds weird when people say David now.
It does. Well, and I get the same thing with Sin. You know, Sin is the nickname that I came up with. All of my shows have the Sin name, but my real name is, well, it's Cynthia. But I'm like, if you call me Cynthia, I'll stop talking to you. I don't like Cynthia. But, you know, Cindy's the name. And when people call me Cindy now, it seems stranger to me when they say versus Sin, because everybody's Sin now. Although it wasn't supposed to be that way, they do. So I'm like, I totally get that thing. It's just a little hard when you're a journalist and you're looking at somebody and you're thinking, oh, my God, he started off as one guy and ended up as another. It's a little confusing, but I found you. I'm not going to lie about that. So that was a cool thing. And since you brought it up, and it was on my cheat list here, obviously, we do want to talk about the other thing that you did, which is, of course, Black Matter I can't even think, Thomasy? Am I an idiot that I can't say that? Yes.
It's naturally, it's confusing on purpose.
Exactly. You're the writer and director of that too also. So if you could give a bit of a premise on that, and also if people are listening in, because you did that a while ago, is it accessible to people if they go online or on other forums to try to look at it or find it? Are they?
Yeah, if you type in Black Matter Thomasy, Durden Godfrey, or even just Black Matter Thomasy, I think it's on YouTube. It'll come up on there. The whole movie is on YouTube.
Cool.
It is the premise of that's Never Go Back is very simple. And that was the point.
Right.
One sentence premise and it's done. Black Matter Thomasy it's a sci-fi comedy, drama, horror. It's all over the place. It's about a guy named Thomasy who starts losing time. He starts just randomly transporting from one time to another without realizing it, one time and location to another time and location without realizing it. And every place that he lands, there's this strange character there that has more information to offer him. And the more information that he gets, the more confused he becomes. Like, all of the information is conflicting, so he doesn't know what the truth is. People keep telling him what the narrative is, and he thinks, okay, I got it now. Then he transports again. Somebody else gives him a completely conflicting narrative. And it starts with this weird, spaceship flies over his house, and it drops this ball of black matter in his backyard, and he touches it, and that kind of like gets in him, and all metaphorical. There's everybody is pretty much telling him that he is the curse he's trying to escape, that the skipping time and jumping locations and everybody that he comes across kind of ends up dying. Somebody reveals to him that he's the curse, that he has to go in order for the world to be, the black matter is in him. And mind you, this was, I did this before, my friend Jeff actually brought it up. He was like, Black Matter Thomasy was done before Black Lives Matter movement, so it wasn't like somebody was like, it kind of sounds like you're being like satirical or funny about the Black Lives Matter.
Sure.
And I'm like, nope, before all that. Not trying to say that Thomas D. matters or anything like that.
No, I get it. I do.
And the funniest part for that movie, for me, for that movie was we did this thing where one of the parts of the curse that he was experiencing was all of his inner dialogue would be spoken. He would speak it out loud, just naturally. Anything that he was thinking would come out of his mouth. So he was narrating the movie out loud. Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to it's just kind of like a journey through my brain is really what it is at the end of the day. The message that I was trying to convey was, look, this is how I feel. I feel like time is not linear, like scattered and all over the place. I'm making the attempt to find out why I feel this way or why the world is this way, but the more information that I find, the more confused I am because it's all conflicting. And at the end of the day, sometimes it feels like you just have to cut it out of you, and that's what I took 3 years off and then watched that, and there was even parts in it where I was like, what does that mean? Some of it was just very like almost a metaphor within a metaphor within a metaphor. Like just I was down a really strange dark path during that time. Synthetic marijuana was hot on the streets around that time, and they sold it as regular marijuana, but it did strange things to your brain. What's that?
I understand. I was just going to say, it's interesting how certain things like that can influence you. Like, I don't ever, like, when I drink, like, obviously I like my wine, etc., but when I drink, I always have this thing, I refuse to write anything when I drink, and I refuse to try to compose anything, even shows, whatever. I just won't do it. I mean, my brain doesn't function the same, obviously, with alcohol versus without alcohol. So I'm like, you have to be kind of on focus. It can be altered by that, you know what I mean? By other inhibitors, things like that, including the stuff in our own brain, definitely. I want to ask you a question about, you went to Haiti in 2012, and I interviewed a dear friend of mine who actually has done a book on Haiti. So I was curious, just out of random curiosity, did you film anything, or were you tempted to film anything? Because that would make some seriously great backdrops, like literally for a movie. I think that Haiti is amazing in terms of shots.
I didn't personally go to Haiti. I was, this was during the time I was in between work. I was editing videos for a church, and the church had a local relief team that went to Haiti, and they got a lot of footage, and they, asked me to take all of their cell phone footage and everything else and put it together into like a story to show what they did there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I've only been out of the country once. I was to the Philippines, ironically, on a mission trip back in 2000 or 1990 something.
I gotcha. Only because on your, obviously, of course, I creep on you because that's the job to do, and so you use multiple formats. And it does, if you go on your Facebook page, it'll say that you visited Haiti, which is, of course, the whole reason for bringing it up, because it says that you've been there.
Oh, wow. That's funny. I'll have to correct
go back and look. Because I just interviewed that guy, the actor the other day that was on my show, and some of the websites show that he was born at 8, and I'm like, seriously? And then another website had reported his birthday being in like January instead of September. So it's weird how the internet does things or whatever have you. So I like to try to remind people, and I look like a jackass because clearly you didn't visit Haiti. So we'll pretend like you did in our heads. I think that's sufficient enough. And I have to share this because I saw this on social media. You had made a comment about how this Christmas was the first time that you had been out with adults in a year. Did I get that right? I mean, a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
It was different. It was. I almost didn't know what to do. My
really?
wife and I we kind of made it a thing where for the first year of our daughter's life, she was going to be home every night.
Right.
You know, we not like sheltering her in any way, but just wanted her
Sure.
to know where home was. And until she could vocalize that I want to go home, or mommy or daddy, we're not going to leave her somewhere with a grandparent or anything.
Right.
So it just then it turned into one of those things. For 15 months, this isn't like a huge change in our lifestyle anyways, but I don't want to give the wrong impression. Before we had a daughter, we probably went 15 months at a time without going out with other adults.
I got you.
As well.
Okay.
So we're very much Netflix home buddies. That's our safe place. That's where we. But yeah, I mean, I dread going out and doing anything socially, but I usually 99% of the time am really glad that I did once I have a few drinks in me, and
right.
And everything's loosened up, and I feel like I can say the things that I'm thinking and stop worrying, stop thinking about everything so much.
Sure.
It was a very fun night. I had to it was almost too fun. I had to put my wife to bed. She couldn't hardly make it up the stairs at my grandparents' house where we were staying up there.
Right.
Yeah, it was.
I thought it was amazing.
There was, she was singing NSYNC from, at the top of her lungs, and I was taking selfies with dudes in the bathroom. It was that kind of. We really embraced we don't have a kid tonight.
Exactly. There you go. Now, I see here on the notation, we'll talk a bit about your educational background. I know that you attended the Frank Peterson Academy of Technology, but relative to things such as directing and actual writing, et cetera, did you do furthering education? Are you considering continuing your education and sharpening your skills as far as that goes? Or how much background have you really had as it relates to what you're doing now?
It's all been learning by experience, trial and error,
Nice.
and also working with other local filmmakers that have had that experience, especially now with the way people, when they're working on productions, will post the behind the scenes videos of other independent productions that you could actually relate to and be like, okay, that's realistic. I could actually do that process, rather than watching DVD features of Hollywood where it's like there's no way I'm getting a crane, so I'll skip past that instructional. So that's like the extent of my education is just watching other people that are doing the same thing, and mainly just a lot of trial and error on my own part. It was very beneficial to spend 15 years pretending like I didn't care what people thought, because it gave me the opportunity to just experiment and really find out what works and what doesn't, and all of that was applied. I'll never go back. I think it's the most it's the most deliberate thing that I've ever done. It was just very thought out. Never applied so much attention to something before.
That's very cool.
I've made the last 15 years of practicing. I just kind of gave that all a purpose when we did this project.
That's awesome. Absolutely awesome. And, of course, obviously, I want to ask, who are some of your personal inspirations, whether it's on the director side of the fence or from a writing perspective? Do you have people that just you look up to and think, God, I'm going to be like this someday, or just admire their work so much, period?
I love Wes Anderson, and I know that's probably cliche to say as an independent filmmaker, but he is and always has been my absolute favorite filmmaker and writer. I love the subtlety, and I love that he never really has a comedy or drama. It's always this just really good stories that have these real life elements, but are also kind of elevated.
Sure.
And he's able to explore these really dark places and really assholey personalities, but make them make it fun for the viewer while still experiencing what they're supposed to. And his cinematography and just the wittiness and the world that he kind of creates and invites you into whenever he makes a movie is always it's kind of like a catch-22. I will not watch if a Wes Anderson movie comes out. I've rarely missed going to see it in theaters, but if it happens to come out while I'm writing something or working on something of my own, I won't see it. I can't watch a Wes Anderson movie while I'm working on something because it will just make me want to stop.
I understand. I totally get it. I'm like that with Stephen King. I'm like, please retire. I'm never going to get anyone as long as you're writing. He can write anything. Anyone will make his movies. Anyone will read his stuff. I'm like, I suck as long as you're the best. It's just that simple. So I get exactly what you're talking about. I do. I want to tell people that, believe it or not, what I love about having my show is that I always I call you people cross chameleons. What that means is you're creative on more than one side of the fence. You're obviously a writer, you're a director. But let's talk a little bit about Pixel Pictures. You're a photographer. So talk to me about the photography thing and the eye of the camera. What makes you a good photographer? Why should people be calling you up like yesterday and saying, come take my picture constantly, every day, all the time?
I am not comfortable calling myself a photographer. I take photos of people that people are happy with, but my selling point is that I am very affordable. I do not charge a lot of money. It was born out of necessity. Again, another time in between work, so I've got a camera. I'm either going to pawn it or to pay the bills or use it to make money to pay the bills. So I just put a thing out on Facebook that said $20 photos in the park and on a Saturday, and RSVP on Facebook if you want to come. Check your time that you want. We'll do $20 for 15 minutes, and that'll get you like 20, 30 photos that look really nice. I had just got the 35 millimeter fixed focus lens, and so yeah, we started doing that, and then there was like 10, 15 people that came out the first weekend that we did that, and I was like, wow, this is we pretty much like this could be something. And not to mention, in one Saturday, I had a portfolio already of 10, 15 different families and or actors that came out that wanted headshots done and things like that. So it's like, well, I guess we should just come up with a name for this and just kind of keep it on the back burner for any time we need some extra cash. And naturally, it just started turning into word of mouth and friends of friends, and now we're doing wedding videos and things like that. I really don't like doing that side of. I enjoy taking photos of people, but it really is just kind of like a side burner thing for when we need the extra cash and things like that. I never like to. My mom always says, "Why don't you get a job doing video work? You can go like WJXT or get." Right. No, I don't like doing video work. I like doing my video work.
Gotcha. No, I understand completely. I do, because we all have to have our side things. Another thing that I thought was really cool, I want to talk about Apocalypse Adeline. It's a short tale, a little bit of dark humor, not surprising, but I want people to know about this because I'm not quite sure if everyone is familiar with that. So can we talk about the book? And I guess I don't need to ask your inspiration on that one.
Yes. Sure. Yeah.
Shocker. Go ahead.
It's very, I don't really remember, and even though it was just a short month or so ago, I don't really remember where the idea came from. It's just kind of one of those things. I was up late at night and couldn't sleep, and I was outside having a cigarette, and this story unfolded of what if there was a children's book where everybody dies in the end. how could that be played off and not be too much for kids? And I was like, this is, at the end of the day, really, it's I was doing it for just my own daughter. I put it online, and just in case there's anybody else out there that is like me and wanted to tell their kid about the end of the world without terrifying them too much.
Right. Sure.
And so, it just kind of grew out of that, where at first it was just going to be one book, but then I started thinking of other ideas that, maybe we could turn this into a series of just things that I would like to read. At the end of the day, if I'm the only one that buys it and I have a book to read my daughter that I enjoy reading to her, then that's a success story for me as far as that project is concerned. But there's been, a few people have purchased it already and, commented on how much they enjoyed it, and it was given to kids on Christmas from people.
So
it was
cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome,
and that's like, that's not even like an ego thing for me. It's just really cool to think like, oh man, there's little kids out there that are reading a story that is based on, it's my daughter. She's like, she's a household name in 6 or 7 households, which is pretty, that have no idea like who we are, which is very neat.
I totally get what you're talking about. In fact, my son did his, it's been a good year, if not more so now. My son did his comic book that he wrote and illustrated probably a little over a year ago, and he did it himself. And, we're now in our 5th illustrator. Who knows if this is going to get done? I'm getting so frustrated because I'm like, he took his illness, changed it into something positive, and now people all over the place, hopefully, in all these hospitals, these children will know who this child is, and they'll know that they, he created a hero. And I'm so excited to do this venture because I'm like, it has nothing to do with ego. It doesn't have my name on it. I'm like, I'm just so excited for him. Just the idea of your children being recognized by people. It's just so exciting, and for something they've done, not something you did. I just brought him into the world. Now he's spreading his wings, so I'm really excited. I totally get what you're talking about, as a matter of fact. Speaking of your daughter, I believe you have this little thing, 8th of every month from 4 to 6 p.m. talk show. Oh my God, you have to talk about this because it's so funny. I'm like, oh my God, the name itself is just like, oh my God, it's so silly.
Well, it's a throwback to the Labyrinth. My favorite part on the Labyrinth is when that little tree, she's writing on the fraggin' walkity-walk. Your mother is a fraggin' aardvark. Like, where the hell did that even come from in a children's movie?
Exactly.
But, we have been slacking on that. The last, with the holidays and everything, we've been offline. Right. And what really did it was we tried to start going live with it the last time we did it, and she was teething, and she was just being
uncooperative.
The worst guest ever. Like, I would never have her back. And I think that's what it is that, like, the show kind of had to come to a hiatus for a moment because the host and the guest just they have differences right now that can't be.
No, I get it. Our client right now. Your client's not cooperating. Okay, we'll just get back to it.
Yeah.
Do you envision being able, as she grows up and gets a little bit bigger, you'll continue to, it's a great concept. I mean, I think it's awesome.
That's why I started it, is to kind of, in a humorous way, track her just growth and her ability to communicate. The first episode, she could barely do anything, and then if she'll allow it to continue, I would like to do it periodically until,
sure.
I mean, hell, if I'm 70 and she's 30 and we're still having conversations around the dining room table, then longest running, least viewed talk show online.
Amen. And good for you on that one. And I don't want to forget to ask you about this other thing here, because as I understand it, both you as well as Angela are working together on doing a children's book. Is that correct?
That was
that's what I heard.
We kind of did.
Or
we did.
Okay.
That was something that was just specifically for our daughter on
got it.
For Christmas. We did like a photo shoot with her in front of a green screen and put her in like all of her favorite shows. And I don't know if you've watched Blue's Clues, but Steve is like I liked Steve when I was 13 years old. Like when Blue's Clues came out, I was 13, and I, for whatever reason, just really liked Steve, and my daughter likes him, and so he's a big deal around our house. And
I bet
we like the theme of the book that we did for our daughter was Blue's Clues, and Steve actually commented on one of the posts, and it was like it made our day.
Aw, that's so cute, isn't it? It's so awesome how children, and I see this all the time too. I'm like, I realize there's this great building, all this great stuff, and I'm in like 50,000 things all the time. But if anything happened to them, which it has in the past, I'm like, I'd give it up in a heartbeat. They're the biggest and best creation I could possibly ever hope for. And I think that we, anytime we can incorporate our children in something or the inspiration for something, I think it's fabulous. And I love the fact that you use so many mediums for that, as a matter of fact. Oh, my God, it's been an hour and 10 minutes. Look at this. Do you see how fast this goes? I crack up when I talk to people because, it goes a little slower when I'm drinking wine, but it's 11 and they frown on that in some cities. So I guess I can't. The kids are here right now, but later maybe because they're going to make me watch that damn football. Okay, so before I forget, these are my last two questions before we have to go through the business stuff. First of all, are you a football fan? Because today's the big thing, and I'm from Wisconsin, and all the asshats here are all like, oh, my kids are probably going to make me watch this Green Bay thing, which will make me drink, by the way, because I hate football more than life. But I'm just curious, are you all geared to the playoffs? Are you guys like, yeah, I'm in front of that TV, man, to get all male-like or whatever you do? I don't know what you do. But
I have nope, never been a sports guy ever. I know, surprise. Yep, no idea. Did not know that there was anything going on. I didn't even know it was football season.
It's crazy. I mean, these people are nuts. And I'm from Wisconsin, so of course, it's Green Bay Packer land. So these people go running around with cheese on their head. That's the thing, Literally, yeah. I'm like, yay, I'm so not proud to be from here because you're wearing cheese on your head. And I wouldn't mind, but they get insane. I mean, literally, they get insane about this. Like, they're attacking you if you don't like them, and I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, it's a sport. It's not like a fanatical thing, right? Now, the other thing on the flip side of the fence, because we both share the fact that neither one of us are a fan of either Trump or Clinton. So here's my one question to you, because I, of course, get accosted all the time. I try to stay away from it. I watch the Golden Globes. I put up the thing with Meryl Streep because I feel, they gave her an award. It's her time. She wants to talk about Trump, whatever. But here's my real question to you is, do you see what I'm seeing, which is this entire, and I know what's happened in other years, but this particular election, this president, I don't like the ugly. I don't like how people are grasping to go to one side of the fence or the other so vehemently. I see myself losing friends. I see people, do you know what I mean? It's ugly. It's not pretty.
Been I think it's been not accidentally very polarizing ordeal. The whole, I think this has been brewing since 2008, and it just when Trump got elected, or when he was when it was starting to look like, oh wow, this is this is actually going to happen. This is crazy. I really thought Hillary was going to get it. I called my friend Jeff, and I was like, it looks like it's going to happen. And first of all, I don't believe that I think that, there are hands at play pulling the strings at what goes on within our government. But so I just boiled it down to, there's either one of two scenarios here. Either we are crazy enough to elect that person as our spokesperson for the country, or the powers that be have planned this, which is even scarier, that want somebody like that in place. With Hillary, I knew we would just kind of be business as usual, that we kind of knew what we were getting, just shady politics, and that is what it is. But I have this, it's hard to explain, but I just have this feeling that all of this divisiveness is so orchestrated, because on a grand level it does. It feels like everybody is just choosing this side or the other side, and everyone is pointing fingers. But then if you go and you talk to people individually, there's no beef. people aren't very angry on a person-to-person basis, but then you get on social media, you watch the news, and as far as that's concerned, it's like a war field, and everybody's walking on eggshells. Like, it's just mines everywhere. You can't say everything you say can be construed the wrong way, and I've never judged a person by their color, but I have felt like in the past few months, I'm like questioning myself, am I racist? I'm like, no, you're not racist. What the hell is your problem? You're buying into it. Like, I know that racism is alive and well. It always has been, but but I think, when it comes to, it's hard, when there's, I don't understand why, old white people are going to feel the way they feel for the most part. And as long as that doesn't, my grandfather, he grew up in a certain time, and he referred the blacks, he says the blacks. I'm like, oh, yeah, it sounds so weird when you say it. But I go to Walmart with him, and he will chat up with any person of any color and be their best friend without any kind of judgment based on something that they can't control. And sure. I just feel like everybody is way too hypersensitive and looking for reasons to get angry and divided now. Unless somebody's racism or inner thoughts is impeding on your rights, I just don't. I feel like we have bigger things to be concerned with that actually do unite us, like economic struggle. And that's a big thing about what Never Go Back does, is it focuses on, it's not there is a minority that is attacked in this country, but it is it affects all colors. Wage warfare is something that I live, when Trump got elected, the next day I went to the grocery store, and a black woman, when I was walking in, gave me this snide look, like I'm a bad guy, just making the assumption that I am in all glory today because the white man won. And I'm like, I'm in the same grocery store you are. I live on the same side of the tracks as you. I have also used government assistance. I'm not in any. I may look white, but my wallet is not white, if that's what you're thinking.
Sure.
And I talk to my friends about this a lot. It's just, if we could, there are two things that we should all be able to agree on. One, we are struggling financially as a country. The American dream is borderline dead. And two, death. Why the hell are we doing anything other than just trying to escape death? If there's one thing that could unite everybody, let's just figure out how to not die.
That's a good point, isn't it? It drives me nuts. Yeah, that's why I said, okay, fine. I'm glad that I'm not the only person in town that's noticing this, because I'm so over it already. I'm just done. I got other things to do, other things to think about. And God knows, if we bond together instead of constantly bashing each other, things would be so much better. That's all I'm saying. Definitely. I have two more things that I have to go through here, which is I'm going to read a rundown of about 85 ways to find you, because that's about it, and then tell me if I missed anything. For you folks listening, the website is www.weshouldnevergoback.com. He is on IMDb, YouTube. The book can be found on lulu.com. For Facebook, he has a personal page, and again, Durden, I'll spell for you. It's Durden, Godfrey, Godfrey. He has a personal page. He has a page for the movie We Should Never Go Back, and of course for his photography, which is spelled PITSELEH Pictures, and of course a Facebook fag for the Fraggin' Talkity Talk Show, which we referenced, and then on Twitter at Never Go Back Film, as well as at Durden Godfrey, as well as at David Pitlansky, which is his regular name. Did I miss anything?
That is very impressive. That you nailed it. If you don't mind, if I could just let because everybody that worked on the movie, they did it for free. If I could just throw out a few.
Go for it. Go for it.
The actors in the movie: Daniel Miller, Benjamin Hornsby, Mel Heflin, Dean Felipe Sr., David McMahon. They fantastic job, very talented people, and you could find them on Facebook. Josh Halquist is someone that you will not see in front of the camera, but he was literally everything behind the camera. He was our scout guide. He was our boom mic. He was everything that we needed for the whole production. And I don't know why he did it. He didn't get a paycheck. He didn't do it for fame because his face isn't there. But I love him for it. And Dr. Jones did an original score, knocked out an hour and 52 minutes of original music in less than 2 months. And it's not just it's an amazing score. It changed the movie. I saw it before it and I saw it after it, and he did a great job. He can be found at facebook.com/AnotherShape. And then lastly, our sound producer, Matthew Beeman, another labor of love, can be found at mattbeeman.com, and he did, the Foley work that he did for this was so fantastic. It makes you feel like you're right there in the center of the woods.
That's awesome.
I think that about covers all of the
that
all
was
the
his
plugs.
Oscar acceptance speech, folks. So when he gets the Oscar and or SAG Award, Oscar, Golden Globe, Critics' Choice, that's what you'll be hearing, of course. I also don't want to forget to remind everyone, if you're in the Florida area, January 19th is the public screening, of course, for the movie. It's at the Sunray Cinema at 7 o'clock, so we don't want to forget about it. The only other thing that we have to cover, actually two things we have to cover is, I forgot the most important question that I ask everyone, which is, everybody that comes on the show gets asked this question. I know you're going to say yes. I'm pumped. I'm psyched. Because if you follow me on Facebook, you know that I've been spending over a year, and I've been chasing the same actor trying to get an interview. And I know you're going to be like, of course, Cindy, I know him. I have a cell phone number. I'll give it to you, and you can call him. There's this little actor they call, Michael Manson, Reservoir Dogs, Donnie Brasco, one of my top 5 people of all time. And I'm sure you have a cell phone number, and you're going to be like, yes, Cindy. I'll give you his number. You can call him up. We'll set that interview up right away.
Yes, I actually do. It's 555.
I hate you. Why does everyone say no, darn it? God, it's like I get one step closer. Oh, it's so frustrating. I'm like, you know what? To me, everybody's a celebrity on my show. You inspire, you motivate, you educate, you entertain. You're a celebrity to me. But, there's just those people in the world that you're just like, you know what, I just admire his body of work so much. And so it's like the running joke now on the show, literally. I literally will ask everyone. I'm like, I know you have to know. I know you have to know. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting pretty desperate. You know what, I'm going to keep asking.
He would be someone I would definitely like to talk to on the phone. I think I'd be intimidating if there wasn't a phone between us, though. Just that stare that he does.
Scare a person, right? But
don't cut my ear off.
Don't go there, that's for sure. No, the last thing we do on this show, if you listen to Steven's interview, is that I get to tell you what I think of you. But I want to remind you of 2 different things here. You are a filmmaker, so certainly if you opt or decide that you want to, I'm having this little film festival in New York City in June of this year, 2017. So if you opt to do the festival circuit, you decide that you want to submit, please do let me know because I have a festival. And then we get a chance to meet each other in person in New York City, assuming you'd be accepted because I wouldn't be able to judge you, but I have judges for that. So keep that in mind if you decide that you want to submit.
Absolutely.
If not, and somewhere down the road you decide that you want me to do a review of your film, that's one of the 800 things I do is I do review and book review, etc. So I watch, my friends give me the coolest stuff to watch all the time. So I have the coolest gig in town. So keep that in mind as well. Now I'm going to tell you what I think.
Awesome.
I have 3 hungry children, my phone ringing, and I think booze is coming later with this stupid football game. Did I just do that again? Yes. So these are my
and I have a wife staring at me for the past 30 minutes like, today was your day to take care of the daughter.
Oh my God, I am so sorry. Please tell Angela.
No.
This is help it. I'm sorry. I'll make it quick.
Not a problem at all.
These are the impressions I have of you, Durden Godfrey, and the only reason that I do these things is, first of all, I like the person that's coming on my show to know what I think of them, and most importantly, I want the audience to get a sense of who you are. And by the way, this is the only part of my show that is not scripted. It's never written. I don't do any research for this. This is just me, my little heart, my mind, saying what I think. So here goes.
I love it. I've never been self-reviewed. This is kind of like a what they do in what is that? The Scientology. I'm going to be audited now.
Don't start. Don't compare me to that freak. Let me just say that. No. I think it's important to do this, and it always gets a mixed reaction. I've had people cry. I've had people say nothing, so we'll see. So, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, obviously, Durden and I met each other through the wonderful Stephen Mich. I had interviewed him. I was so lucky I was referred to him. And then, of course, somehow the spirit world brought us together, and here we are now. So I'm very, very grateful for that. One of the coolest things about my job is I get to interview people like myself that are in mind as well as in spirit, mentally connected. I think you and I have some great similarities, and I was very excited to interview you. First of all, you're a parent. The fact that you have such an immense passion for your child and that it's a driving force behind so many different things that you do is not only admirable, but it's appreciated in an industry where I meet people all the time that are constantly utilizing nannies, are not home half the time. So it's very, very encouraging and impressive to me that you're a very hands-on person and made it into an inspiration for so many things. For that, you should be commended. Second of all, you have a concept on more than one occasion that you made into a film that is not only out of the norm, a little bit quirky, a little bit different, but it's also very revitalizing and rejuvenating for the soul. Even though I haven't seen the material as of yet, I can only surmise that it comes from the very quirky, and I mean this in the most loving way, brain that you possess on the top of your head. I'm about as screwed up as you can get mentally, but it causes me to create some of the most beautiful things or some of the most beautiful scripts or literal interviews that you could ever think of. So I'm very grateful to have a brain that's a little off-kilter. Us kilters have to, non-straight kilters have to stick together, so to speak. I think that I absolutely admire, more than I can tell you, some of the posts you put out there because they are that real, because they are that genuine, and they show the reflection in the mirror of a man who is nothing more than extraordinary in his own right because he's established that on his own terms with his own boundaries. I think we all have a lot to learn when it comes down to things, but one of the blessings that I have for this show is I get to expose the audience to you. They get an exposure to your work, but most importantly, they get a look inside your brain. And you, my dear, possess a wonderful brain with a wonderful concept. I'm crossing my fingers that this film brings you success. I'm crossing my fingers that I'll get a chance to. And know that my show is a platform where you can come any point in time for the future for anything you need. It was really a pleasure.
Wow, thank you very much. That is, wow. I'm going to save this recording and listen to it any morning that I feel like. Yeah, every day, pretty much. Yes, and yes, that's very, very thoughtful. I'm
very honest.
Beside myself. Thank you very much, and thank you for being so selfless with your time and doing things like this for people like me. That's, I mean. I often question where the inspiration to do something so selflessly comes from, and you just rarely see things like that. So, thank you very much. And I couldn't imagine having 3 kids and still carrying on as much as you do.
Well, there are actually 4, really. 2 girls.
4, wow.
There's 4. So, yeah, there's a lot happening in this house. You can see why I'm a little too crazy all the time. This is where wine comes in. Did I mention that for the 5th time? Wine. Just saying. I'm throwing it out there. All right, you're going to get to your wife and your lovely child. I'm going to get to my children, and I don't know what I'm going to do with them. Oh, I don't know. I'll squeeze them and say, I just interviewed this totally kick-ass guy that reminded me that I do what I do. So that's awesome. Thank you again, my dear. Let me know how the screening goes. Let me know about the festival. My love to your wife and child, and I hope everything gets better. I mean, physically, everybody gets better.
Thank you, Cindy. You too. Thank you very much.
Anytime, darling. Have a good day.
All right, bye-bye. Thank you, you too.
This was awesome on a Sunday morning, let me just say. And now I'm off to moving Christmas trees up. Real quickly, one more time, he can be found on IMDb, YouTube. His book can be on lulu.com. Website, www.weshouldnevergoback.com. He has a Facebook personal page, and again, it's Durden, D-U-R-D-E-N, Godfrey, G-O-D-F-R-E-Y. Personal page, We Should Never Go Back to the Film. Frag and Talkie Talk Show, which we know is on hiatus because the little one is not doing so great. And Pitsela Pictures, P-I-T-S-E-L-E-H Pictures, on Twitter at Never Go Back Film. David Pitlansky and Durden Godfrey are all his Twitter handles. Again, thank you so much, my dear, for being so patient and giving me all of your time. Thank you to my Sunday listening audience. Thank you to my children for being, oh my God, so beautifully amazing and patient. And now I'm going to go off and spend a great Sunday with my children. You all have a wonderful day. And before I forget, even though I put it on Facebook, I have to say, if you didn't get a chance, go to my page. You will see my homage and my birthday wish for the most important woman in my life. So to you, Sherry, if you ever get around to listening to this, I just love you more than words can say, and you've made a sizable difference in my life, and I wouldn't be who I am without you. And I mean that every single day, all year round. Okay, now I can close. Have a great day, guys. Thanks.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.
What you doing?
Ran out of space on my phone, so I'm deleting some stuff. Bye, singing dog. Bye, goal.
I pronounce you.
Bye, wedding ceremony.
Stop. At Metro PCS, you get 2 free phones with twice as much memory.
Really?
Don't say bye to your memories. Switch to Metro PCS and get 2 free LG K20 Plus phones with 32 gigs when you switch 2 lines. Metro PCS. Wireless. Figured out. Coverage not available in some areas. Sales tax not included in phone price. Excludes numbers on the T-Mobile network. See store for details and terms and conditions.